Cool. All right. Whew. Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday. Halfway through the week, so that's always a good thing. As always, I like to start off with my videos by saying, I want to give my thoughts and prayers to the ones that are essential right now, the ones that are working in the hospitals, science labs, everything they're trying to do to, excuse me, everything they're trying to do to help us and protect us as much as they can. They're the ones that have to deal with it the worst. And I give them all the credit in the world for doing what they do. And I want to give my thoughts out and prayers to them. And as always, wash your hands before every meal and after every meal. And if you got a cough, like I just recently had to do, coughing your elbow, and hand sanitizer, please. As always, have some hand sanitizer with you ready to go, because in situations like this, you got to be ready to go. And so sorry that I have to do this, guys, but it happens. So just a little bit. Thank you, sweetie. Always have some hand sanitizer with you, because it is a miracle worker. And for the ones that are self-quarantined right now, always, try to take care of yourself, take care of your body, take care of the mind. Enjoy the time with your loved ones right now, and just try to, have fun, just try to, enjoy the moments with your family right now, because, it's a different times right now. So family's important. And like I said, always have some hand sanitizer, because you never know when that could happen. So, yes, if you have noticed that the background behind me today, it is my birthday, and my girlfriend did a lovely, lovely little, thing, she put her heart into it. So I really appreciate that. So yes, it is my birthday, and we already have one comment. Happy birthday, champ. Thank you, bro. I always appreciate that. This is my last year in my 20s. So next time this year, I'm turning 30. So I'm going to try to make the best out of these last year of my 20s. So hopefully it's a good one. But, so I want to thank everybody today that did wish me a happy birthday, and on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it was, thank you guys so much. And, let's get this show on the road. Today, the Baltimore Ravens are on the clock with pick number 28. But before I make my prediction on what I think the Ravens are going to do, we have to go back to this time last year on their 2019 draft class. So with their first round pick, they got Marquise Brown, the wide receiver out of Oklahoma. The only knock on him last year was that he was a little bit too small. He's only 5'10" and 180 pounds. So he's not the biggest guy in the room, but at Oklahoma, he showed his stuff, man. He was really good coming out. And the question I already got asked is any relation to Antonio Brown? The answer is yes. They are actually cousins. Marquise Brown and Antonio Brown are actually cousins. So as one left the NFC North, another joined. So that's always he was a talented man out of Oklahoma. It just his first year, it didn't really show. Only 46 receptions, 584 yards, but he did get 7 touchdowns. So the touchdowns are there. Now, they just have to implement him more in the passing game, and hopefully, he takes that next step to becoming their number one, which is why they drafted him in the first round. They didn't have a second, but they did have 2 thirds. One of the first third-round picks they took was Jalen Ferguson, defensive end, linebacker out of Louisiana Tech. He only played in 14 games, 2 healthy scratches, and 31 tackles and 2.5 sacks and 1 forced fumble. So he was a situational guy. I think now with how everything played out for them in free agency, I think he will get a little bit more starting time. So maybe he'll have a bigger role. But it was good for the time he was in for situational football. He did his thing, and that was a pretty good pick. There was a pretty good pickup by them in the third round. Their next third rounder, Miles Boykin, wide receiver out of Notre Dame. Only 13 receptions, 198 yards, 3 TDs, but he's a really good special team ace, and that's when you have the speed like that, he's really good on that end. So another good pickup by Baltimore. In the fourth round, they drafted a running back, Justice Hill, running back out of Oklahoma State. He had a good Senior Bowl. It's just I think what it was we have a comment. Happy birthday. Let's talk football now. That's what we're doing, Carla. No, I'm okay. But Justice Hill, running back out of Oklahoma State, he had a good Senior Bowl. I think what it was just kind of the off the field issues and a little bit of bad interviews made him drop. But he was a third down running back, so he only had 225 yards rushing and 2 TDs. So, that's a pretty good situational third down back, in my opinion. Fourth round again, Ben Powers, offensive guard out of Oklahoma, backup. So, nothing more to it than that. Eamon Marshall, their last fourth rounder, he's a cornerback out of USC. He only played in 3 games. He only made 1 tackle. So we'll see what his role is next year, and we'll see, how he takes it coming into camp next year. Fifth rounder, Dalen Mack, a defensive tackle to Texas A&M. Healthy scratch, no games played. So, we'll see. We'll see what happened there. So, it's a shame, but we'll see what happened there. And then with their last pick, Trace McSorley, quarterback out of Penn State. He was the third string quarterback, so he didn't get the time to play. So, and it, go figure. They had Lamar Jackson. And I am so sorry, guys. I don't know what happened. I had a nice dinner, and now I can't stop coughing. So I have no idea what happened. So Baltimore, they ended up going 14-2 in their division. They won the division. They ended up being the number 1 seed in football, and they dominated the division 5-1, 5 wins and only 1 loss. But their only loss came to Cleveland, but they split that series and they swept Pittsburgh and they swept Cincinnati. So 5-1 in that division, that's a pretty good one. So the first 4 games they didn't look destined to be the number 1 seed as they went 2-2. They got beat up pretty bad by Cleveland, and the question was, can Lamar Jackson do his thing? Can Baltimore bounce back? And they did. After that 2-2 start, they went on to win the rest of the year. 12-game win streak. They, as I mentioned, they swept the division after that. 5-1. They had notable wins over the 49ers, the Patriots, and the Seahawks. So those are pretty good wins. Very notable wins. And the running game was outstanding. I think it was the best in the league with, the dual controlled the clock, and they gave no time to their opponents to try to catch up. So the season ended 14-2. They actually got the bye, so that was kind of the positive. But the only negative was they lost to the Titans in the divisional round. And that was just bad timing. I would like to say it was bad timing because Tennessee at that point was just on fire with, Ryan Tannehill kind of having a resurgence and Derrick Henry running wild. There's that famous clip where, he pushed Earl Thomas and, it made him look like he was a lead blocker for, Derrick Henry. But, it was no shame in that. It happens, upsets happen all the time. It's just unfortunate that 14-2 and you have the number 1 seed and you lose to a wild card team. That was the unfortunate part. So, but at the end of the year, at the award show, Lamar Jackson did get the MVP, which is the second year in the league. He had 3,127 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So he had a 6-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Now, that's impressive. Now, and 7 touchdowns. So in total, 4,333 total yards, 43 total touchdowns. The kid was amazing. The kid had an amazing year. I mean, in his second year, this is what he was able to do. And, I think it's an unfair criticism because, him being in Louisville and being part of the ACC where he played against Miami, it seemed for a while that Louisville always had a good run of quarterbacks for a couple of years. They had Teddy Bridgewater when they moved into the ACC, and then they had Lamar Jackson there ready to, take over Teddy as he, went on to the NFL. But Louisville had a good, quarterback room at that time. And I think it was unfair because I remember his first year playing in Louisville, they would say that defensive coordinators will figure him out. Well, then he went on to have a better year. And then, that's how he ended up being a first-round pick, the last first-round pick, pick number 32 in that first round in his draft day. So he backed up Joe Flacco, and they made the switch, and he's actually the reason why they went from having a losing record to, oops, sorry about that, guys. They went from a losing record to having a winning one, and they did lose in the playoffs, unfortunately. But then the criticism was, oh, well, we have enough tape on Lamar Jackson to figure him out. Well, the next year happens, and he wins MVP, and now we hear it again. That defensive coordinators are going to figure him out. This is sort of like an unfair thing to say, only due to the fact that scouts, media, they've said it, they'll figure it out. Apparently they have not. You cannot figure out this man. So um he's always had to deal with that. I wouldn't say adversity because that's kind of a harsh word, but the doubters. He's always had to face doubters. I remember there was one scout in San Diego or Los Angeles. That was actually a bad ringtone moment at the time, so I apologize for that, guys. But as I was mentioning, there was the Los Angeles Chargers. There was one anonymous scout who turned out to be a Los Angeles Chargers scout who said, "Hey, how would you feel about switching to running back?" He's a quarterback, guys, and the people can still doubt all you want. I know 3,100 yards passing isn't a lot, but if you can get 1,200 yards rushing from your quarterback and another 1,000 yards from your running back as well, shit, I'm good. I'm good with that too. I'll take that any day. The more you can do, the better. But that was one scout. Then Bill Polian, who's a Hall of Famer, he actually went on ESPN and said, I would try to convince him to convert him to wide receiver. I thought that was a cheap move, only due to the fact that of respect that Bill Polian has, being the Hall of Famer and the legendary scout that he is, as he's built up, you know, really good franchises, and he's had really good, you know, they had good franchises with him, and he's built good teams. So I thought that was kind of a cheap shot by him to try to say, that he should convert to wide receiver. I think from here on out, he's a quarterback, and that's it. End of discussion. He proved it when he took over Flacco, and he proved it this year winning MVP. I think the discussion's over. That Baltimore has their quarterback, and his name is Lamar Jackson, and he looks like the face of the AFC North for years to come if he stays healthy, barring any injuries. So that's the end of that. So, as I said, Lamar Jackson wins MVP. They get into free agency, and we do have a comment here. I think Baltimore takes wide receiver. I don't think so, only due to the fact that they did take Marquise Brown in the first round, and they do have other wide receivers ready to go. As I mentioned, Miles Boykin's there. They did sign another wide receiver. So I don't think wide receivers in their game plan. Not to say that maybe they can draft one in the second or later rounds, but I don't think first round is where I think they're going to go. So, as I mentioned, they lose to the Titans. Then they get to free agency. They tagged Matthew Judon, which is important because remember they lost C.J. Mosley last year, and that was a big hit to that defense in Baltimore. I think if you're just starting to watch these videos, or if you're just starting to watch football, me growing up, Baltimore was always about defense. I can always remember Halati Nada, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Rod Woodson for a little bit. That's the thing about Baltimore. It always seemed that they had, good defensive, players. And then there's Tony Saragusa. There's a lot of players that played defense for that team that, T Sizzle. I can go on and on. Baltimore has had legendary defenses, in my lifetime watching them play. But it's just weird now to think that they need help on the defensive side of football, which is kind of like the strong suit for Baltimore. That's what Baltimore was known for. So Matthew Judon, they tagged him. He's coming back. They signed Derek Wolfe from the Broncos, the defensive end. Justin Ellis, they re-signed him. Jahad Ward re-signed him. Jimmy Smith, the longtime corner for Baltimore, he's coming back. Anthony Levine, he's coming back. The safety, Chris Moore, as I mentioned now, with Boykin, Marquise Brown, I think their wide receiver group is good enough. However, if they want to improve with this deep class, I think they can get one in the second or third round. And then they made a trade from Jacksonville to get Calais Campbell. So again, defense was key for Baltimore because they did everything they could for the offense to just take off a bunch of time on the clock, and defense just had to make a few stops here and there. Not to, oops, sorry about that. The balloons are attacking me. I guess everybody's a critic, so, but I think this is a good free agency class for Baltimore because now they had the experience, they had the depth, and they're only going to get better. Like I mentioned, CJ Mosley was the only one that I think was a free agency loss last year that I think they need to replace. But defense is key for Baltimore, and you know now with Lamar Jackson heading into his third year, he's only going to get better. Robert Griffin III is the backup. Their offensive line is ready to go with our Ronnie Brown, or the left tackle Ronnie Stanley out of Notre Dame, and then Orlando Brown, the right tackle out of Oklahoma. Bozeman, Zuka, that offensive line is ready to go. Baltimore is set up to win now. They just need a little bit more help on the defensive side. And I think if they clear that side up, I truly believe that Baltimore will continue to keep winning this division as long as they are a balanced team. So, I mean, other than that, here it is, guys. My prediction on what I believe the Baltimore Ravens are going to do with the 28th pick in this year's draft. And here we go, guys. To think that we're only a week away, starting tomorrow, we're only 1 week away, and it's the real deal. And I cannot wait. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. So after today, we only have a few more videos. I do have two more guests lined up. I have one for Green Bay, and I have one for the 49ers. I am trying to work with one to get one for the Chiefs, and hopefully he gets back to me. But we do have a few more guests lined up, and hopefully, everything goes through. But after this Sunday will be my final individual video. Monday will be the final mock draft for me, and then Thursday, what we're gonna try to do is I'm gonna head over to my brother's house. We are gonna watch the draft, me and him, as we always do every year. And what's gonna happen is after the first round, we'll do a reaction show, and hopefully you guys tune in. Um, and we can have a discussion. What was your surprise pick? What pick do you think, who made the best pick in day one? And, let's have fun with it. So here we go, guys. With the 28th pick in the 2020 draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Zach Bond, linebacker, Wisconsin. This kid is what you think he is. He is a football playing linebacker. He plays linebacker. There's linebackers and then there's linebackers. That's what he is. He is a linebacker to the core. He loves his job. And to give you an idea, here's his intangibles. He's 6'3", 240 pounds, 32 and a half inch arm length, 9 3/4 hand size. He ran the 40 in 4.65, so it wasn't the fastest, but I'll explain more in a minute why they were going to take him. 24 bench presses, a 32 and a half inch vertical, a 9.7 feet broad jump, a 7-second flat 3-cone drill, and a 4.31 20-yard shuttle. And here we go. And Julian Garcia with the comments. Sorry, man, that kid's going to drop bad. He tested positive for a delayed drug test at the combine. So, yes, at the combine, a good mention by Julian Garcia, he did get popped for a delayed drug test. So his thing was, he said that he drank too much water, and that's why it came out the way it did. I think in the aspects of this, he looks like a stand-up kid. He looks like a kid who is really sincere about this test, how it came out. He sounded sincere on a couple interviews that he's already done. And, everybody at Wisconsin, from the head coach to the defensive coordinator to the linebackers coach, they do nothing but rave for this kid, that he's a good kid. And I am actually going to take his word for it. I think that something bad happened, something got crossed or something got mixed up. And I think, I would believe him, because his story is he got hurt and he had to work his way back. I don't think he would give it up for a bad drug test. And in 3 years from now, if it shows up that it did, then that what a shame, because he is a really talented kid. So in 2016, his freshman year, he didn't start, but he did play a few games, 15 tackles, one forced fumble, and 3.5 tackles for loss. So it looked promising. Then in 2017, during the spring game, he broke his leg, or he broke his left foot, and that just ended his year right there. He broke his foot, and that was it. And then Joan Garcia let it go. The kid's a stoner. I don't think so, bro. I really don't. I think the kid was sincere. I really do think that he meant it. I would give him a chance, because his numbers don't pop out, but his tape, I always say, tape doesn't lie. He looks like he was meant to play in the NFL. So 2017, injured reserve, that was the end of his year. 2018, he finally got the starting position. They finally put him as a starter. 62 tackles, 2.5 sacks, one interception, three pass deflections, and 7.5 tackles for loss. So from his freshman year to his junior year, big impact. And that's what, you want to see. You want to see, how freshmen come back after their second and third year. He decided to come back for his senior year. I think that's sophomore year, you know, but he wanted to come back his senior year. And then let's see, Joan Garcia, true. People lie, tape don't. That's the thing. It is true. People, say things, but the tape don't. And I think his tape is one of the best out there. So in 2019, he comes back for his senior year, 76 tackles, 12.5 sacks, two forced fumbles, one interception, which actually was returned for a pick six, two pass deflections, 19.5 tackles for loss. So all I can say is his 40 at the combine does not show that he can get behind the offensive lineman like that. He can get in the backfield that fast. But combine numbers and tape numbers are two totally different things. I think this kid would be a perfect fit for Baltimore. You can put him in the middle. I say put him right now because of the 3-4 scheme. You could put him as a middle linebacker. Have Matthew Judon there, Calais Campbell in the defensive line now, and now you got all these, big guys up front, and you got these linebackers ready to attack. And I think Baltimore should not even think twice. If Zach Bond's there, I say just take him. And whether you want to put him as an outside linebacker, as an edge, or in the middle, the kid can play anywhere. He's just that good. And I understand, there is concerns of, his combine, but the way I see it, the tape don't lie. He's much faster. He has more game speed than he does training speed. And to give that into perspective, when people run the 40, they think like, oh, that's just as fast as he can run. But then you look at their tape and it's like, oh man, he runs just as fast when he's playing the game. And that happens sometimes. There's players, over the years that people come out and said Monday through Saturday, he wasn't the best practicer, but on Sunday, the lights came on and he was the best player on the field. And that happens sometimes. I've heard others where like, man, they're great practice players throughout Monday through Saturday, but Sunday fall flat. And I think this is the case for him. I think he's a way better player than he is just, training individually. So I think Zach Bond's the perfect fit for Baltimore. This is just a dream scenario for Baltimore. So that's where I'm going with. So I want to thank you guys again for all the birthday wishes I got today. Tomorrow, the Titans are on the clock. The surprise team, being one game away from going to the Super Bowl, but they ended up meeting the Chiefs, who ended up winning the Super Bowl, and they had a good year. And now we're getting to the Final Four videos, so it's almost over. And then, like as I said, I do have a lined up guy for Green Bay, San Francisco. I'm trying to get one for Kansas City, so hopefully everything goes through. And tomorrow we talk about the Titans, and yeah, let's have fun. The Titans with, the resurgence of Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry finally showing that he's one of the better running backs in the game. And now let's see where they go from here. I mean, it's going to be an interesting pick for them, but that's more tomorrow. And I want to thank you guys, for tuning in today. Can we get more Raider content, please? Yes, we can get more Raider content. What I'm thinking is, bro, Thursday we unveil our draft picks for what we think the Raiders are going to do in this draft. And I think that, but we'll talk more about that. But tomorrow the Tennessee Titans are on the clock. So all of you have a wonderful night and see you guys tomorrow.